Hi. As everybody knows by now that I was very skeptical about taking the AstraZeneca vaccine. That was based on the fact that South Africa rejected it, and that was based on a study they did in South Africa. Now, that study has now been published in the New England Medical Journal, which is the premier journal of medicine. I had a look at it. It was published this past week. Had a look at it and analyzed it. And after my analysis, I've changed my mind. I believe that we should be taking the vaccine, and I'll explain why. Essentially, what they did, they took 2,000 people, half were given a bit of salt water, half were given the vaccine. These people were between the age of 18 to 65. That's quite important for us because you'll find that in the vulnerable group, the majority of the people in Botswana will be between those ages. You're talking about roughly 55% of the population. Those over 55 is less than 6%, so those people are very few over 65. Now, therefore, whatever we find in the study should be applicable to us in Botswana. Now, what they found is that the vaccine had some protection, but not as much as was expected. It had about 22% protection compared to the placebo, the salt people. Now, the conclusion was that the vaccine is not making any difference in terms of protecting people against COVID-19. However, none of the people in the two groups went to hospital or suffered severe illness or died. So, because it applied to both groups, it was very difficult to see what the effect of the vaccine was on the people. Now, if you look at it simplistically, you may think that the vaccine does not make any difference. However, a careful analysis indicates that it does, right? So now the study was done at the time, at the peak of the pandemic, the second wave pandemic in South Africa. So a lot of people at that stage knew about alternative ways of preventing COVID-19. For instance, they knew about social distancing, they knew about sanitizing, they knew about wearing masks, double masks. I remember there was a time when we were told by Professor Dr. Fish in the United States that double masking is very good at prevention of COVID-19. Now, if you're going to be volunteering, because these people are volunteers, if they are volunteering, you're likely to be more motivated than the average person. Therefore, these people who came in were motivated, so they are much more likely to have been taking other measures to prevent COVID-19. For instance, they will have been social distancing, they will have been sanitizing, they will be wearing double masks, okay? In addition to the chance that they were taking appropriate nutrition materials, nutrients to combat this disease. They probably were taking vitamin C, D, A, and zinc. That's very likely. Unfortunately, this was not determined in the study. They never asked them, are you taking this and this? And also, you couldn't tell people to stop taking this thing because, that would be unethical because those things are known to be preventive. So my take on this is that the difference between the vaccine and the placebo was probably not that great because all of them were taking other public health measures to prevent COVID-19. Now, some people were saying that there were no comorbidities in the studies. Actually, that's not strictly true because 42% of the people in the study were smokers, and we know that smokers die very easily and they go to hospital with COVID-19. In addition to this, 19% of the people were also obese, also a risk factor when you get COVID-19. Therefore, it's not strictly true to say there were no comorbidities. Now, even much more interesting is a little bit that they did further. They looked at what's called T cell function. T cells are some of the cells that are in the immune system that go out to go and destroy viruses, bacteria, all that type of thing. When they did that and analyzed them, they found that the T cells that function against the South African variant was maintained. In other words, the ability to fight COVID-19 was maintained in these groups, okay? And we know that T cell function is protective against hospitalization and severe disease and death. That we know about that. Therefore, if T cell function is maintained in people who are taking the vaccine, they are not going to be going to hospital or dying. I think that explains that. That was something that I wasn't aware of until I look at the study and the references that we make and look at that. On the basis of that, I would suggest that in Botswana, we should be taking this vaccine. But in addition to that, you should be making sure we follow the normal protocol of COVID-19 prevention. That's sanitizing. That is washing your hands. That's sanitizing. That's taking appropriate nutrients, vitamin A, C, D, and zinc. Also wearing masks, double masks particularly, and limiting the time you go out. So basically, I'll be taking it, and I'll advise you guys to take it too. Of course, the fact that you've taken this one, when other ones become available, because this is the most common one, right? The other vaccines are very rare to get. So when the other vaccines become available, there is nothing to stop you from taking the other ones too. I mean, absolutely nothing at all. So I might take the shot now, then it will protect me in the meantime. Maybe after 6 months or so, I will maybe Modena or Pfizer or the right Sputnik comes around, I can still take it. So that would be, one thing you should consider. Thank you very much for listening. Take care.